money? Anybody know? Got a guess? Huh?
It's a medium of exchange.
It's a medium of exchange. Anytime it's a medium of trade. It's whatever the two parties agree that they're going to trade with, that constitutes money. If it's corn versus wheat versus barley versus shoes versus clothes, whatever the two are trading, that becomes the money. Okay? Money and currency are two different things. Money and currency are two different things. Now, currency can be used as money. Currency can be used as money. All right? Right. But money cannot be used as currency. The key word we look for here is current. If that thing that you call currency does not generate current, it is not currency. Does paper generate currency?
No.
Is paper currency?
No.
Any form of paper?
No.
A certificate?
No.
A debt note?
No.
A United States note? A Federal Reserve note? A stock? You know the papers that you get, say you're a stockholder? A bond? All these things, stocks, bonds, certificates, what else did I say? Anything that says note, anything that says this is an instrument, what else do we have? Reserve notes. I don't care what kind of note it is. If it's a U.S. note, Treasury note, Federal Reserve note, none of them are currency. What's very interesting is, and this is what we learned in our trade currency class, these Federal Reserve notes are transferable for something. The fact that they say Federal Reserve note tells you that they belong to and they are the property of anytime you see the word bank, there's a con game going on. Don't trust that word. I don't care what name precedes it or follows it. There's a con game going on whenever you see the word bank. You may as well just figure that you're being conned. The Federal Reserve Bank is the owner of these Federal Reserve notes that you carry around and conduct trade with. Why is it that you're able to use them? Pull out a Federal Reserve note. You see the two signatures on the front. Down at the bottom. You see Mary Ellen Withrow, right? Mm-hmm. And you see Ron Rubin, right? Mm-hmm. Who is it? Lawrence Summers?
No.
I have Ron.
Somebody has Summers?
Yeah.
You have Summers? That must be a new bill because he's just appointed last year when Rubin resigned.
It's a new one.
It's a new one. Okay? So now, look on the back. You see two seals on the back?
Yeah.
So what do you have in that document? A contract. That document is a contract. It's signed and sealed. It's a contract. It's signed and sealed. Got it? Yeah. Two seals up there. Huh? What two seals do you see on that document?
Morris
and the USA. But the U.S. is signing for somebody. They're representing, they're sitting in the seat for somebody, which gives them the authority to sign that contract. You already know the answer. I heard somebody say it. The Moors. Okay? So this is a lawful contract that they have with the USA. Like that. And their contract is signed and sealed. It's valid. So for any of those organizations out there that are telling you the debt notes and these Federal Reserve notes are worthless and this and that and whatever, don't listen to them. This is a valid contract for the world to see. Now, on the front, you got your two signatures. Mary Ellen Withrow signed for who? Yes, she did. She's the United States. Mary Ellen Withrow is the treasurer of the United States. She is elected. She's not appointed. She is elected, and she signed that contract for the United States. Ron Rubin, or Lawrence Summers, because you have him, he was, Ron Rubin resigned. Lawrence Summers is the new Secretary of the Treasury. The Treasury of the United States of America. Whereas Mary Ellen Withrow was elected by you at the Democratic National Convention, okay? And she's signing for the Moors. As treasurer of the United States, they are two separate and distinct things. Two separate and distinct entities, two separate and distinct offices. Well, one is an office and one is a department, actually. This is a department. Lawrence Summers and Ron Rubin signed for the Treasury Department over here. Y'all see that? You have to. Anybody have any questions about that? Because y'all have to be clear about that before we can move on, all right? So, what happens when you use a Federal Reserve note? Most people have been in the habit of taking Federal Reserve notes to your average everyday Joe Blow bank. Commerce, Mellon, PNC, First Union, Sovereign. And see, Core States is gone. We don't have them anymore. Whatever bank you name, first of all, they're conning you. But the banks are in the business because you don't know any better. So they're the middleman. And they're in the middle of doing what? They're not making any money. Well, no, they're not really stealing. Well, we're going to get into the next question, what is money, and then you'll see why that's not true. They're not. No bank, other than the Federal Reserve Bank, deals in currency. Not one. Not one. They trade in these things right here. Paper. They are paper traders. They are paper traders. They're in the business of trading and exchanging paper. That's all they do. Promissory notes and debt notes. That's what they're in the business to do. Don't ever be misled about who they are. Banks. All banks. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank is a little bit different because it's chartered by the United States, by Congress. Chartered by Congress. So now, if you want to exchange a Federal Reserve note for another Federal Reserve note, you can go to your average Joe Blow bank, right? But if you want to exchange a Federal Reserve note for currency, they can't do that. They can't help you. They're not in the business to do that. They'll tell you, well, we can't do that, but you ask them, well, where do I go? They're not going to be able to tell you. You don't know? They know. The average teller doesn't know. I would say your tellers know. Even your branch managers don't know. But banking executives know. The ones who sit upstairs, you never see them downstairs and talk to them.
But I read that they make the money.
Who makes money? Does anybody have the Constitution in here? Does anybody have a law? Could you look in the back of the law dictionary? And I forgot which section it is. It talks about, I want to say Article 4 is it that talks about coining money? Find the one that talks about coining money so we can answer your question. The Federal Reserve Bank does not make money. They don't, no. They can print paper. might be 5. It's 6. Under 6, where it talks about contracts and all that, and the states cannot coin money. Okay, well, while you're looking for that, I'll move on. All right. If it's not a coin, it's not currency. Okay? Now, what causes the currency? Why do you even call it currency? It moves, yes.
The energy.
The energy, it actually conducts current. Why? Because we are chemical, electrical, magnetic, spiritual beings, divine beings, right? So we have in us electricity. When these people, we'll call them Albions, wanted to take control of our land and our system, the most important thing they had to do was remove the current from the currency. They had to remove currency. Okay? And this is how they solidified their hold on our country and our government and our whole structure of our land and everything that we've done. They removed the currency. And they simply did that. I don't know what I want to write down in red or blue. Let's say we do this. March 6th, 1933. It was coming to a head even from the days of Lincoln because the state banks printed state notes. We talked about this in trade currency class, right? They printed state notes. And the state notes were for the state banks. And what would happen is, it was a debt note. And what would happen is the people would take their gold and silver, their currency, into the bank, into a vault. And then the bank would count the currency and give them debt notes that they could give to people and trade with so they wouldn't have to carry the currency around. Well, they said so. It was so heavy. However, you found it? Let me just finish this point, then we're going to read that. However, the purpose of the debt note was for, let's say, you give me a debt note, right? But you have that money in the bank. So at any point, the debt note you give me is a promissory note that says at some point in time, whenever I choose, I can take my promissory note to her bank and cash it in for the currency, for the lawful money. But in the meantime, what was happening was the banks were stealing the money. They were setting up Jesse James and the boys to rob trains and steal the currency. So it got to the point where when I tried to go in to exchange my promissory note for the lawful money, it wasn't there. The banks were stealing it. So it got so bad, and this is why they killed Lincoln, because Lincoln wanted to stop this process, and he tried to implement what was called greenbacks, which was the federal system instead of the state system, so that the federal government could take control of the debt note system and have the faith, that the people would have the faith that their promissory notes would be honored. Okay? So, by the time Roosevelt got to be president, it had gotten so bad that he had to call for a bank holiday of 3 Masonic days. 3 Masonic days. He called out the military to every bank in the country. Can you imagine? That's what they did, and they called all the military out to the banks. Go and look it up, to the banks, and on this day, they closed all the banks, from the 6th to the 9th. All right? And what did they do? First of all, they had to sneak them. They had to take them by surprise, because Lincoln was trying to plan it, and you see what happened to him. So they had to keep it quiet. They had to take them by surprise. All of a sudden, one day, all these military troops converged on all the banks in the country and shut them down and put all the bank executives out of the buildings. So what did they do? They seized all the state notes, and they took all the gold and silver out of the vaults, because the people had gotten to the point where the people had forgotten that this system that I just explained to you, that you're supposed to be able to go back to the bank and turn the debt note in to get the money. We had gotten so accustomed to just trading in paper, we started calling the paper money. And that's what happened, okay? So they seized all of the state notes, so the state could no longer issue state debt notes, state bank promissory notes, okay? They instituted a system of federal banks, because you know all banks are not state chartered. There are some federally chartered banks, okay, to stabilize the whole system. And that's when they put in I have to write them in blue because not red. That's when they instilled the Federal Reserve Bank. Initially, it wasn't even called a bank, and it was based upon the Federal Reserve Act. Okay? Now you see why they had to do that? They had to do that because the people's money was already stolen. The vast, vast majority of it, the bankers had stolen. Okay? And this is why then Roosevelt had to make an announcement to the public that they were replacing the state notes with the Federal Reserve. At the time, they were called United States notes. This is what they first replaced them with. United States notes. See, I wrote that in red? And the United States notes were gold and silver certificates. Now, money is a lawful medium of, it is lawful. Let's go back to these things right here. Everything on this list, are they lawful? All these things here, are they lawful? No. They are legal. They are legal. Yet, all of them depend on something that's lawful for their mere existence. That there's some currency somewhere. That there's a promise of an exchange of currency somewhere. Okay? Now, what is happening is people stay stuck right here. Minus all that. They get stuck right there. And they think that this is money. So they never go beyond this to get to dealing in currency. And one of the reasons is because the information has been lost, absent for so long in them that they've forgotten that they trade in currency. Okay? They think they trade here. And debt notes, certificates, bonds, and stocks. Okay? And all these instruments. Even a form of instrument is a deed. It is an instrument because you can use the deed as collateral to get Federal Reserve notes. You can do that. You can use a deed as collateral to get a Federal Reserve note, which gives you the opportunity to take the Federal Reserve note to the Federal Reserve Bank to get some lawful currency. But you don't do that, do you?